Hey, this is Kevin Lynch. Today we're going to talk about the difference between Sicilian pizza and grandma pie as we make both these delicious pizzas. In the southern Italian island of Sicily, they've always made Sfincione, which is a thicker focaccia style of pizza made in pans. And this led to American styles of pizza such as Sicilian pizza, grandma pie, Detroit pizza, Old Forge style, and more. I actually picked up this Got Pizza shirt at Arcaro and Janelle in Old Forge, Pennsylvania. I had a really great slice of pizza there. Based on my research and watching a lot of videos, this is my interpretation on the difference between Sicilian pizza and grandma pie. While both are made in pans, the Sicilian is thicker, fluffier, and has a focaccia style crust, and the grandma pie is thinner and crispier. So, let's show you how to make both. For either style of pizza, you're going to want to get a steel pan. I have this nice 13 by 9 inch pan right here, works great. If you have a taller pan used for making brownies, well, that'll work too. The big difference between the Sicilian pizza and grandma pie in preparation is in a Sicilian, when you put your dough in your pan, you cover it and let it rise for 2 or 3 hours. With the grandma pie, you put your dough in the pan and cook it pretty soon after. As the legend goes, it's called the grandma pie because grandmas don't have time to wait around for dough to rise when the kids are hungry. You'll find Sicilian pizza at a lot of pizzerias around America, especially on the East Coast, and grandma pie really gained steam in Long Island, New York, started by Umberto's. We're going to be at different stages with making these two pizzas. I took my Sicilian dough ball out of the fridge 3 hours ago. Now it's at room temperature, so we can put it in the pan and then let it rise for 2 or 3 more hours. The grandma pie ball I just took out of the fridge, and that'll get to room temperature while the Sicilian pizza is rising in the pan. So I'm using a 9 by 13 inch pan for both styles of pizza. I like a 12-ounce dough ball for my grandma pie, and I like a 16-ounce dough ball for my Sicilian pie to allow it to get a little bit thicker. If you have different sizes of pans, since it's pretty easy to figure out the square inches on a square rectangular pan, you can kind of do the math and figure out what size dough ball you need for bigger or smaller pans. So here's my 12-ounce grandma pie dough ball. One thing I like to do as the dough is warming up is get it into a square or rectangular shape so when it's warming up and rising a little bit, it stays in the shape I want. So I'm just going to take my ball and put it in a little bit of flour. Put it on my surface. Just kind of stretch it out a little bit so it's more of a square instead of a circle. As you can see, it's a little bit more square-like. So now it's back in my Tupperware, and I'm going to let it sit for a few hours. My Sicilian dough ball has been out of the fridge for a few hours, and it's ready to go in the pan. So I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil and put it in the bottom of my pan. Kind of see how much I use there. I'm just going to rub it in. Get a nice coating of olive oil on this pan. As you can see, nice and greased up there. Now here's a method I learned from Frank Pinello, who's got a lot of great pizza videos out there on YouTube, including The Pizza Show. So I'm going to take some olive oil and put it on my work surface. And I'm going to spread this out. And pick up my dough ball. And lay it down on the surface. Just keep stretching it out. Stretch it long. Stretch it wide. Kind of use your hands. I like to flatten out these big air bubbles a little bit. What I want to do is I want to stretch it so that it's a little bit bigger than my pan. As you can see, the dough is bigger than my pan. So now I'm going to carefully pick up the dough and place it into my pan. So I'm putting it in here. It's really going to take the edges and corners and put them up against the pan. Just kind of spread it around on the olive oil. I like to create a little bit of a ridge for the crust on the edge. And really just take the flat part of your fingers Kind of massage the entire dough so we prevent huge air bubbles in the dough. If the dough's acting like elastic and you're having trouble getting it to the edges of the pan, cover the pan, let the dough relax for about 15 or 20 more minutes, and try again. So now you can see the dough is in the pan. I built it up a little bit on the sides for the crust. So now I'm going to cover it with saran wrap and let it sit and rise for 3 hours. It's been 3 hours. The Sicilian pizza dough rose in the pan. And my grandma pie dough ball is now at room temperature. If you ever want to speed up the process of getting your dough to room temperature, you can find a warm spot in your house or in your car. Now I'm going to take the grandma pie dough ball and put it in the pan. Just like on the Sicilian, I'm going to put some olive oil on the bottom of my pan. Just get a decent coating of olive oil. Spread it around with your hand. Now I'm going to use the same method for my grandma pie. I'm going to stretch the dough out on an oiled surface. I'm going to gently take it out of the Tupperware. Once again, I'm just going to spread it out into the size of the pan. Using my hands to pull it lengthwise, pulling it to the side. Gonna flatten it a little bit, get out some of these big air pockets. Gonna push it down a little bit with the flat part of my fingers. Now I have it where it's a little bit bigger than my pan. So now I'm going to drop the dough into the pan very carefully. Just going to overlap the pan a little bit. So just take the ends and tuck them up against the sides of the pan. I like a little bit of an edge for my crust. So I'm just going to pinch it up against the sides a little bit. Okay, so now I have my grandma dough in the pan, and we're going to top this and put it right in the oven. My oven is preheated to 550, and I also have my pizza stone in there because I like to finish off my grandma pie on the stone. On the grandma pie, I'm going to put the cheese down first and then the sauce. On a lot of pan pizzas, the cheese goes down first to protect the dough from getting soggy. Another way to avoid that is a par bake like we're doing on the Sicilian. So I'm taking whole milk mozzarella. So I have a nice layer of mozzarella cheese on there. Like a lot of my pizzas, I like to add some Romano and Parmesan to the mozzarella cheese. I like a little bit of oregano on my pizzas. You can use dried oregano or fresh oregano. Today I'm going to use fresh oregano from the garden. I always like a little bit of black pepper. And now for the sauce that goes on top of the cheese, I'm going to put 3 stripes down the pizza. In my opinion, if you have a good sauce, you should use it for almost all of your pizzas. So I'm going to use the same pizza sauce for the grandma pie and the Sicilian. My sauce is a 28-ounce can of San Marzano tomatoes, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper, 4 cloves of garlic sauteed in 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Then I put that in the blender, and at the end I add 4 basil leaves chopped up. You can watch the full video of my pizza sauce, link in the description. So I'm going to fill my ladle and make my 3 stripes. And 3. The oven is at 550. This is going to stay in the pan for 12 minutes. And then I'm going to finish the pizza off with 2 minutes on the stone. And now we finish it on the stone for 2 minutes. Because Sicilian pizza dough is soft and fluffy, I'm going to par bake this with just a little bit of sauce for 10 minutes. The reason I do this is the Sicilian has a lot of sauce on it, and I want to prevent that sauce from seeping down into the dough and making it soggy. I'm going to take just a little bit of sauce and put it on this Sicilian. I'm leaving that ridge for the outer crust. So now I'm going to put this in for the 10-minute par bake at 550. The 10-minute par bake is done on the Sicilian, so let's take it out. The Sicilian has been cooling for a minute, so now I'm going to put a nice layer of sauce on top. The combination of the focaccia style dough and a good layer of sauce and cheese is so delicious. Now you can see I have a really good layer of sauce on there. Now I'm going to top it with cheese. Once again, I like a lot of mozzarella, then Parmesan and Romano. So you can make this as cheesy as you'd like. It's got that nice par bake to hold up well. The Parmesan. The Romano. Once again, I'm going to add some black pepper. Some fresh oregano. Now it's ready to get finished off in the oven. I'm going to cook it for another 6 or 7 minutes until the cheese is nice and melted. Now the Sicilian's done, so let's get that out. The grandma has more of the burnt char on the bottom, and the Sicilian is golden like a great focaccia. I love a little bit of fresh basil on top of my cheese pizzas. All right, let's cut these up and have some pizza. And cut these into 8 slices. This is our Sicilian, and this is our grandma. As you can see, the Sicilian's a little bit thicker. So the Sicilian's just light and fluffy like a great focaccia. So good. Then the grandma, a little thinner, a little crispier. Unique with that sauce on top with the fresh basil. They're both so good. I don't know which you'll like better, but I think you're going to love them both. Thanks for cooking Sicilian style pizzas with me.